Hi everybody and welcome to the Truck King YouTube channel. Today we are looking at one of the most controversial pickups on the market. In fact, a lot of people say it's not even a pickup truck at all. Of course, I'm talking about the 2020 Honda Ridgeline. And to answer that question of whether it's really a truck, we're going to put it through our battery of truck tests. So in this video, we're going to hook up a trailer and see how the Ridgeline tows. We're going to fill the bed up with payload and see how it hauls. And then we'll take it off-road and see how the all-wheel drive system handles. Now it's time for the walk around and we start with the engine. This is the only power plant available under the hood of the Ridgeline. It's a 3.5 liter naturally aspirated V6, making 262 pound-feet of torque and 280 horsepower sent through a 9-speed automatic transmission. Now, funny enough, you can actually get two-wheel drive versions of this truck, front-wheel drive versions, but not here in Canada. Here in Canada, we don't even bother with that. So for all my Canadians, don't worry about that two-wheel drive model. That's for all of you living down there in Texas and Arizona. So let's keep moving back. Our Ridgeline here today is the Black Edition, which is kind of self-explanatory. It's all black. You get a set of 18-inch black wheels, you get the black covers on your mirrors, black door handles, everything is blacked out, and body color to make sure it's the Black Edition. So let's keep moving back because the Ridgeline has a lot of really cool things going on at the rear end. Unique things, actually. First, the tailgate. Now, I'm a little disappointed by this. Honda hasn't bothered to damp the tailgate yet, but the tailgate's got some tricks. You reach under here where it says release, and she swings open. This has been something that Honda has always done with the Ridgeline. This is going to help you to access your bed, but also help you to access the Ridgeline's trunk. Yes, this pickup truck has a trunk. I absolutely love this feature. And again, frankly, it's, in my opinion, less for truck stuff and more about, getting the groceries, doing those day-to-day things where you don't want to leave that stuff just loose in the bed of a truck. You want to tuck your groceries down into a trunk, and Honda gives you that option. One downside, though, I always have to point this out, there's your spare tire. So if something is in the bed and you can't open your trunk, you also can't get to your spare, at least not very easily. Now, the other super cool thing this Honda has back here in the bed is truck bed audio, and I'll show you that right now. Smash that button, turn it on, and now my copyright-free YouTube music is playing out of the bed. Take a listen. And you might be thinking, where are the speakers? Well, there are no actual speakers here. Honda puts what they call exciters in the walls of the bed. So the space between those bed walls is actually acting as a big resonator. So the bed itself is the speaker. Pretty neat. One last point on the bed. Because of that trunk, it's a very shallow bed, which is a bit of a downside. If you're loading things in here, like we're about to load these barrels, it's going to be a little bit tricky to tie them down because of how shallow this bed is. But the plus side of that is, look, I can actually reach in here and get straight to almost the middle of the bed. These days with pickup trucks, they're getting so tall and the beds are so deep. That's actually rare. Usually you can't reach the floor of a bed. Here in the Ridgeline though, everything back here is really easy to access. And speaking of loading, it's time to load up the barrels. So we have to check our payload rating. First, we look right there. And there it is, 1,477 pounds. Which is totally comparable to all the other mid-sized trucks we've tested, and actually even some of the half-tons. So that means we're going to load 1,000 pounds worth of barrels into the back of this Ridgeline. Let's get to it. Okay, the Ridgeline's loaded up here, and I want to show you guys, just for the record, it's not moonshine in these barrels like one of our commenters suggested. It's not meth, it's not maple syrup. It is just bricks. We loaded these barrels up each with 500 pounds of bricks, and bricks are actually good weight because, it's really easy to figure out how much they weigh. Now, what we then did is we took these pieces of wood, we actually tied a rope onto them, and there's a little platform down there that kind of supports the bricks. so that I wouldn't put all the pressure on these barrels here. And so far, it's worked pretty well. Anyways, that's just a little behind the scenes on our payload situation. And now let's get tested. Well, folks, we're now on the road in the Ridgeline, 1,000 pounds back there in the bed. And let me first say, I think it's, really respectable that the Ridgeline has a payload rating, which has been right there with all the trucks we've already tested in terms of mid-sizers. Even some of the half tons we've done only have 1,400 and change pounds. So the number is right there with the competition. However, with this 1,000 pounds and us up here, we've got this truck maxed out, probably a little over max payload. And it feels maxed out. I mean, it basically feels like this is enough and I wouldn't want to do more. Is that basically what you're feeling?
Yeah, exactly. Whereas with some of the other trucks, we were saying that, we had the 1,000 pounds, but you just felt that there was more there. You could do more. With this truck, it's capable with that 1,000 in the bed. I wouldn't want to do any more.
Yeah, that's, I think, a totally fair point. And so this kind of brings us back to my original argument, or the big question, is the Ridgeline a real truck? Well, just in terms of payload, yeah, absolutely. It can do what most trucks out there on the market can do at the lighter end of things. Start to get real heavy, and it doesn't feel like too much of a real truck anymore.
And to your thought, I just want to focus on the word truck for a second. I mean, we use the word truck for everything. Whether you're talking about a 1-ton dually, you call that a truck, or we call this a truck. So what I like to tell people when they get excited, well, the Ridgeline isn't a truck, is I say, you know what? I own at least a dozen different hammers, and they're all hammers. But one's a sledgehammer, one's a roofing hammer, one's a tack hammer, one's a ball peen hammer. In other words, each one of those hammers has a very specific job that it's meant for. Any tradesman understands what I'm talking about. And at the same time, if somebody says, give me a hammer, you look at them and you go, well, which one? So, yeah, the Ridgeline is a truck, but it's not a truck in the same way that a traditional American half-ton is. It's not a truck in the same way that a 1-ton diesel dually is. If you want to buy a Ridgeline, this is it. One engine, one powertrain,
one cab,
one setup.
Yeah.
You either love this package as is. You can't do what you do with the other guys where you go in and go, well, swap out the rear end. I want that engine, change the tranny, give me a different cab. So, only if you love it, the way it sits here. So again, but then again, that reflects how small of a market share this truck has.
True.
On the other hand, the people that own these things, they're rabid. They love them. And I can kind of see the appeal.
Yeah. All right, back in from the payload. Now it's time to measure the squat here in the Ridgeline. So the barrels are in, still up against that front wall. We go to the center of the tire. And thanks for keeping it easy for me here, Honda. We're talking about 32 inches. 32 inches as it sits right now. Let's take the barrels out and see how much she raises up. All right, time to hop back in here and measure. So let's see how much she raised up. Center of the tire. Oh, Honda's making this easy for me today. Well, that's about 34 and 1/16. We can call it 34 though. So once again, just like a lot of the trucks we test, the Ridgeline only squatted 2 inches. And you can see how that stacks up right here. All right, payload is done. Time to back into our trailer here so I can show you the camera system here on this Ridgeline. So it starts with that rear view, then you can make it an even wider rear view, or you can get that zoomed in top down look. So we'll just use the regular rear view for now and back her into the trailer. And honestly, the one thing about this Ridgeline is the resolution on this camera really isn't that great, to be honest. A lot of the trucks these days have really nice looking cameras. This one doesn't look that nice. This is a huge feature though, so for the last few feet you're able to really see the ball, and make sure you put it directly underneath that pin like that. Boom. Now we're loading up for the towing test. The Ridgeline is good for 5,000 pounds. The trailer's 2, and that block is 1. So we're gonna tow 3,000 pounds with this baby today. Let's get her loaded up. All right, everybody, time for 0 to 100 here in the Ridgeline. Now there is no tow haul mode in the Ridgeline, so we're just going in normal mode. We come to a stop, let the app reset. Ready for the race, hit it. Go Ridgeline! Felt okay off the line. Not bad, Ridgeline. And there's 100. Wow. The Ridgeline just did a 14.4 second to 100. Now keep in mind it's only towing 3,000 pounds. So to be fair to the Ridgeline, this is the lightest trailer we've towed yet. Still felt pretty quick off the line. And now you can see how that stacks up on the leaderboard. Now we're going to start our trailering loop, so we need to reset the fuel economy. Our average right now empty is 10.5 per 100. I'd say that's a pretty decent average. On the highway you can definitely get better than that, but that's what you can expect out of this Ridgeline empty. So let's go ahead and reset her now. And boom! Now we'll tow our 3,000 pound trailer and see what she gets. So yes, you just saw the numbers right there. This Ridgeline is actually the second quickest truck we've ever tested, right behind the Silverado with the 6.2 liter V8. But there's a big asterisk, right? This truck is only towing 3,000 pounds. With some of the trucks we've had, we've towed 5,000, and then half tons we always try to do 7,000. But of course, it depends on what the tow rating is. So what we're gonna do, this whole leaderboard idea, I mean, we're trying to give you guys apples to apples information you can compare. And of course, with different trailer weights, that's tricky. So we're gonna change things up, and we're gonna start doing it by trailer weight. So we'll actually have a board for trucks that towed 3,000, trucks that towed 5, and trucks that towed 7. And we haven't done any HDs yet, but once we get into heavy duties, we might end up doing a larger trailer as well. But anyways, that's sort of just what's going on with the leaderboard. Leaderboard aside though, I think Dad and I were both actually pretty impressed with how the Honda really took off the line. This is the 9-speed automatic, so there are quite a few gears here it has to utilize. And I felt like first and second were really strong. And then the shift into third, it felt like it fell off a little bit. But yeah, the power was right there. And now we're just out here cruising. So what does the engine feel like just kind of cruising down the road? What are your butt sensors telling you?
It's doing a good job. When we loaded it up, you and I both were going back and forth. Should we do 3,000? Should we do 4,000? And then we compromised on 3. Honestly, that's why I did, because I didn't think it would necessarily be that good. Now I'm kind of sorry we didn't do 4,000. So, because we're only pulling 60% of its limit. And the way that it feels, yeah, it would definitely do more. And I got a feeling that if you went to the limit, you'd still be okay. Just everything about this feels really decent towing.
Kind of building on Dad's point, I want to talk about what the Ridgeline is like driving empty. We don't do that too often because we like to work our trucks around here, but again, this truck, this is a daily driver. It's absolutely the kind of truck you can drive every day. And I'll say it gladly, this is the best driving mid-size pickup on the market, period, when it's empty, because it just feels like a car. The suspension is so smooth, the cabin in here is so quiet, you don't get any of the chatter or stiffness out of the suspension that you do out of a regular pickup truck. So yes, when you're just cruising down the road, back and forth to work, commuting, I don't think you can honestly get a better truck than this Ridgeline. All right, we're back in the yard now, and you can see the fuel economy. 11.8 liters per 100 kilometers over just about 35K. That's honestly a pretty respectable number, especially considering the Ridgeline was getting 10.5 while running empty. So it really didn't push up the fuel economy too much, towing this $3,000. And now for all the US folks, I can change the units. You have to do that over here in the actual center stack. So you see their display. You can pick it. We'll go into miles. We will change that over. And that brings us to a total of 19.7 mpg. Now it's time for off-roading here in the Ridgeline. And I guess the way we have to start this is, I probably don't need to tell you this, but I will anyways. This is not an off-road truck by any means, not set up for off-roading. Here's the off-road numbers. The numbers basically tell the story there. This is not the truck you buy for off-roading. However, the Ridgeline, like I said, here in Canada, comes standard with all-wheel drive, and the all-wheel drive system here is actually pretty clever. The one thing it does do, which you can actually really feel from behind the wheel, is torque vectoring. So when you are coming down the dirt trails here, picking up a bit of speed, and you throw it into this corner, it actually, you can feel the outside of the vehicle really start to rotate a little more than what feels natural actually, but it feels good off-road because it makes these really tight kind of corners. Now, I got just a tiny bit of speed there and the suspension was already feeling totally taxed, totally out of its element. Again, not an off-roader by any means, but this little road, the road that you can see here in the car-to-car footage, I mean, that's as rough as any cottage or cabin road is ever gonna get, and that's exactly the kind of off-roading that I think the Ridgeline is really ready for. If you've got somewhere you want to get to, a rural property that has some kind of rough dirt road, the Ridgeline will get up it. But don't buy this truck to bury it in the mud. That's not what it's for. Now, Honda doesn't totally agree with me though. There are intelligent traction management systems here on the Ridgeline. You get normal, snow, sand, and mud. So yes, Honda does put a mud mode in here, and that's gonna change up mostly the traction control system, probably the throttle response too. In mud and sand, you want that high wheel speed, so Honda's gonna give it to you. And I do appreciate at least they took the time to put those modes into the all-wheel drive system. But how come not a tow haul, Honda? You put in those modes, but no tow haul? Seems like an oversight. Well, everybody, that's it for this one. So let me summarize this Ridgeline. Is it a truck? Yes, of course it is. You just saw it do all of that work right there. And I think the important story with the Ridgeline is it delivers exactly what it promises. This isn't some big beefy truck that you expect to do insane things. This is the truck you expect to daily drive from Monday to Friday, be extremely comfortable and safe, and then on the weekend, do some truck stuff relatively well, and that's exactly what it does. So everybody, that is it for this video. Of course, I want to hear your thoughts on the Ridgeline debate and what you think of this truck. Of course, while you're down there in the comments, don't forget to hit like, hit that subscribe button, and then come right back here to Truck King to see what we're testing next. See ya.